Volume 5 has been a bit of a shit show. I for one had high hopes, only for the season to meander in the middle and then suddenly pick up for a bit of a clusterfuck of a finale. As such, we're going to be looking at the worst or most disappointing things in this volume, at least for me. Believe it or not, guys, people can have different opinions. Now I want to make it clear we are doing this to critique the show in a way it can improve. If you feel the need to destroy RWBY for fun and then offer nothing to improve it, kindly fuck off and find something productive to do with your time, okay, asshat? Anyway, let's get started. The red flags for Volume 5's lackluster pacing were all visible right from the start in hindsight, but I think Chapter 5 is really where the story started to take the nosedive. It was essentially just 3 conversations and really felt like the low points of Volume 4. The thing is, Volume 5 was made out to be this action-packed adventure, and then all of a sudden the story slowed to a snail's pace where it almost felt like nothing was happening, let alone any kind of action. Some points down the line definitely contribute to this, but Volume 5's strongest points are its beginning and its ending. However you feel about that 4-part finale, it sure beats those agonizing middle episodes, especially Chapter 9. Ugh. The fight scenes have dipped in quality since Volume 3, though Volume 4's really only exceptional fight was the one between Crow and Tyrion. Volume 5 didn't have much action, save for the Lancer fight in Chapter 2 and the fights in the last 4 episodes. Outside that, the Weiss and Yang character shorts seem to have gotten more love than some of the Volume 5 fights. And while I totally get that to make up for the middle, it's still frustrating when RWBY's main selling point, its fight scenes, have not taken the back seat, but been locked in the trunk and left crying and screaming as the driver drunkenly swerves down the highway. This isn't even to mention fights that were slow like RWBY vs Emerald and Yang vs Emerald and Mercury, or fights we cut away from. Can we see Checkmate in action again, or everyone pushing Emerald, Mercury, and Hazel to the point where they need to retreat? Please show! Then there's the teleporting issue, which... ugh. I think the biggest problem with these fights is that they don't seem to be animated before deciding where the camera should go. Hence why there are problems with characters teleporting and a lack of momentum. Not to mention all the talking when characters should be trying to kill each other.
You've crossed the line.
Sorry, brother. Sometimes family disappears.
Shut up and kill each other! I think we can all agree that RWBY has way too many characters for its own good. Now I will be the first person to defend a large cast so long as the writing remains strong. Game of Thrones, for example, has hundreds of well-defined, memorable, and 3-dimensional characters. RWBY doesn't seem to have that same ability with its characters. I mean, does anyone even remember the rest of Team Sun? Ciel Soleil? Ring any bells at all? Yuma and Trifa are probably the biggest example of this issue. Yuma especially was built up as this big threat, but was taken out by Kali with her tea tray. Now, while I adore Kali and find that fucking hilarious, it shouldn't have been that easy to take Yuma down. Especially when it, you know, breaks the rules of aura. Though I should note, I am willing to buy that some of these guards haven't unlocked their aura, cause they seem like discount guards, if anything. I mean, at least we get discount Catwoman defeating discount Batman jokes out of this. Corsic and Fennec have been more annoying than threatening. I mean, they're creepy, but I don't think at any point I looked at them as major threats. We have no idea why they're so creepy, why they're working with Adam, and while I admit I loved Blake making Adam feel so small and insignificant, it came at the cost of the build-up we've been giving their confrontation. I mean, I'm grateful Blake was smart enough to know not to go after our cornered bull, but maybe have her and Alias save Sun when he jumps in, and then have Adam run off. Also, side note, what the fuck is Adam's new outfit? Why does he have so many zippers? What's he got in those pockets? What's in there? What's in there? The biggest victim of Sienna Khan's death is whoever designed her. I get that she had to die to set the tone and to give Adam the full reins of the White Fang, all 7 of its members, but we couldn't at least give her an epic fight to go out on? Hell, give her Tiger Claw themed weapons that are also guns at least. I love the twist with Raven being the Spring Maiden and Vernal being Red Herring, but we got nothing about why Vernal was willing to act as Raven's decoy and sacrifice herself the way she did. I at one point thought Vernal was a fake Spring Maiden propped up by Ozpin, but since the canon has killed that theory in its crib, I got nothing. I will say Vernal had some cool fucking weapons though. And Lionheart. My god, Lionheart. Now I will say, where a lot of people don't seem to enjoy his death scene, I loved it. He got what was coming to him, and I thoroughly enjoyed it as the psychopath I am. Still, it'd be nice to know why Lionheart decided to take Salem's side, besides him being the cowardly lion. We keep hearing how Salem is unbeatable, but why is she unbeatable? Is she immortal? Can wounds on her heal instantly? How old is she anyway? Why is she doing this? What's she want? What's Salem want? Please, dear God, don't let her be a spurned lover. I know the war between Salem and Oz has been going on for eons, but can we make this a bigger point? How about Lionheart being a faunus and receiving a lot of hate and mistral for it? Oz probably picked all the headmasters of the Huntsman Academies as his last reincarnation, the King of Vale. So maybe have Mistral's people, who'd previously enjoyed using faunus as slave labor, antagonize Lionheart over this, to the point where it pushed him over the edge. Well, I guess we have to accept what we've got. At least we have this death scene. Also, while I don't really have a problem with Hazel using dust to strengthen himself, which I find really fucking cool, his backstory, really guys, this is the best thing you could create. Really. Exposition, exposition. Now for those unaware, exposition is the fancy way of saying info dumping, going into meticulous detail that oftentimes is boring, uninteresting, and makes you want to claw your fucking eyes out, and RWBY is filled with it. An example, in Chapter 5, we have Blake and Sun talking about Blake's past with Ilya and Adam. Now, is there anything wrong with this? In essence, no, but there's a much more effective way to tell the story. Through a flashback. Show these three's friendship in their early days in the White Fang, with Adam gradually becoming more aggressive and spiteful. The Storm, one of the most beloved episodes of Avatar: The Last Airbender, told the backstories of Aang and Zuko, the protagonist and antagonist, through flashbacks, not exposition. Chapter 6's section with Raven, Weiss, and Yang starts off with Raven repeating information we already know about. It should have instead started with Yang saying that the idea of Oz reincarnating, Salem's existence, and the main powers are ridiculous, with Raven then showing off her ability to shapeshift and Vernal showing off her maiden powers, or at least Raven contributing to that illusion. And then there's the Chapter 4 training scene explaining aura and semblance to us, even though we've already pieced this all together. The conversation with Ozpin in Chapter 7, there's plenty more in Volume 5 to make you want to bash your head into the wall. It's the basic rule of show versus tell. Tell is sometimes necessary to get past the boring parts, but when you want the audience fully invested, you show. Honestly, go back to the beginning of the series and take a shot every time someone says something along the lines of, "What do you mean?" But don't, because I don't want to go to jail. There's no Wi-Fi in jail. This has been bothering me, though I'm not sure about anybody else. We really only see 2D stills of Mistral in the first chapter, and only 2 indoor locations of Haven Academy, and that's about it. We do see Crow exploring some parts of Mistral, but not that much. We don't go exploring Mistral to see the sights and learn about its culture. Instead, Team Ranger sits around doing nothing most of the season. As a writer, this pisses me off because there's so much potential here being squandered. Also, I am so grateful Blake got the police because characters should learn to do that more, but you'd think they'd contact all the students from Haven and ask them to help. That'd be a great way to integrate not only the rest of Team Sun, but the other Haven students we saw in Volume 3. I know that's just Team Auburn, but fuck it, it means more opportunities for fights. You know, unless we cut away from them. I really didn't want to go here. I really didn't, but I feel I must. Why is RWBY the protagonist? RWBY wasn't involved in the fight between Raven and Cinder, she didn't get the Relic of Knowledge, she hasn't really done anything to warrant her being the main character. She had to learn to fight without her scythe, but that really went nowhere. I get her trying to stay positive in the face of adversity, but she's gotta have her breaking points. I think the closest we got to character development for her was her conversation with Oscar in Chapter 5. Which I loved. The bigger problem is the Silver Eyes. RWBY is not asked about them or her mother, she hasn't asked about Ty's involvement in the war against Salem, and no one has even mentioned Silver Eyes since Crow talking to RWBY about it in the Volume 3 finale. It's so frustrating because the Silver Eyes, rather than adding to the lore of the world, have been used as a deus ex machina. I don't even know why they had to be a thing in Chapter 11 because they contributed almost nothing to the story. RWBY needs not only more to do, but needs more agency in the plot. Otherwise, there's no point in her being the main character. Volume 5 has been an incredibly rocky ride, but even so, I still really enjoyed it. I've come to accept that RWBY is a hot mess, but it still brings so much joy to me and a lot of other people. So if you feel the need to rip that joy away from people, I'd like to kindly ask you to fuck off. We can only hope that Volume 6 will try to improve in some way, or we can just enjoy crying. If you found this interesting, be sure to subscribe and stay tuned. You might also like my RWBY Volume reviews, which are much more laid back and show my crazy side. Next Friday, I'll be uploading my review for Volume 5 as a whole, so be on the lookout for that. Next Wednesday, I'll be starting my new Sass Wednesday series, where I watch random horrible shows and rip them to shreds, mainly obscure paranormal shows in which I'm rooting for the ghosts to run the humans out of their house. cause I'm a dick. I'm also writing a new adult urban fantasy novel, Diseneribus from the Ashes, so if you could check out the synopsis and first chapter in the description below, I would really appreciate it. I'm the Unicorn of War, and this has been a shit show.